All right, so we're looking at the road, or perhaps the future of road safety, and how driving schools can make a difference. Let me bring in my guest who's been on the line for quite a while now, and I'm talking about Jide Owatunmise, who is Country Director, Driving Schools and Safety Alliance Africa, DSSAA. He is also the Director of Studies, Institute of Driving Instructors of Nigeria. I can tell you my guest is the Registrar and the Chief Executive of Professional Driving and Safety Academy. He is former National President, Association of Driving Instructors of Nigeria, former National President, Driving Schools Association of Nigeria, and he's joining me on the phone line this morning. Jide Owatunmise, good morning. It's nice to have you join us on Your Side Mirror.
Thanks so much. Good morning, and thanks for having me.
All right. You seem to have a very, very rich resume, and it all speaks to driving. So talk to me. Are all these as a result of driving, or these are just degrees and titles that you acquired?
Well, it's a result of professionalism in driving and in driving instruction.
So is there a science to driving and driving instructions?
Yeah.
There is?
A tie.
Okay.
Your question again, sir?
I said, is there a science to driving and driving
All
instructions?
Right. Yes. You know, driving is the basic act for whoever wants to move a vehicle. It's an act, a skill for those who want to drive a vehicle. But driving instruction is like teacher and students. Drivers are like the students. The driving instructors are like the teachers. You can be a student and then a teacher. You will be taught first before you become a teacher.
All right.
So the training to become a driver is quite different from the training to become a driving instructor.
Wow.
But first and foremost, you must know how to drive. So after you know how to drive, you now go ahead
to become an instructor.
Learn how to instruct, which is a deeper and more advanced form of knowledge and skills.
And how many years have you been doing this, Mr. Owatunmise?
I've been doing that for about 20 years now, by the grace of God.
Wow. 2 decades. That's a long time. All right. So let's look at it now. So the very last time we had a conversation with your members, we dwelled a bit on the relevance of driving schools in the safety equation of our roads in Nigeria. So let's still dwell on that, really. Are driving schools still relevant in today's Nigeria, so to say?
Driving schools are still relevant and will continue to be relevant as long as we have modes of transportation. Not only cars, not only vehicles. Even as long as you're going to have all the modes of transportation, be it rail, be it road, be it air, be it sea, driving is still going to be more relevant. Because as of today, we are focusing more on road transportation, but I want you to know that driving, that is the driving schools, have the capacity. They have the legal right to even train drivers. They have the right to even train the pilots in some areas, because the plane will land on the ground and move on the ground. There are some basic things they need to know about the movement of the plane on the ground, which the driving schools can also handle. The same thing with the waterways.
Wow.
The waterways. When you are talking of the waterways, you are talking of the boat or the ship, those that are moving on the road. The driving school also have a role to play there, because we have to train them, one, on the issue of following distance, on the issue of lane discipline, on the issue of safety. So driving school will continue to be relevant both in road transportation, rail transportation, air transportation, and sea transportation.
Which is good. I mean, in spite of this relevance, which you just mentioned, from what you see, are people really going to driving schools?
Sincerely speaking, the rate at which people are going to driving school is below expectations. Because if you look at the National Road Traffic Regulations 2012 and the 2016 amendment, it is mandatory for any man or woman that wants to drive to go to driving school to acquire the basic theory and practical training. Are you getting my point now? Because you cannot, driving is a complex job. And I used to say it anywhere that driving is even the most complex job in the whole world. Why is it the most complex job?
Tell me.
It is the only job that requires the near simultaneous use of your eyes, of your nose, your ears, your neck, your brain, your hands, your legs, to gather information, to interpret information, and to apply the information. So it is the most complex, but there's no other job in the whole world that requires the use of so many organs of the body like that. So driving is very complex. So for you now to go into a job that is very complex, for you to engage in a task that is very complex, you don't have to take it with levity. You need to acquire the basic theoretical knowledge. You have to acquire the basic practical skills. So it is very important. That's why you have the rate of accident as what it is today. The rate of accident in Nigeria is very high because people are refusing to go to driving schools to learn. You know, there are so many things. When you look at the curriculum of driving schools, there is no way you can know how to drive effectively without going through all the curriculum.
Right.
And for you to go through all the curriculum, sincerely speaking, it will take you not less than 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Not less than 2 to 3 months.
Right.
What we even have today is crash program in most of the schools. Despite that is a crash program that they run for 1 month, 2 months, people are still trying to avoid. Some people will come to your school and want to get driver license. Okay, you have to go through the theory and practical session. They will say, no. I only need the practical session. I don't need the theory. I say, how do you want to practice it? The bulb we are enjoying today, the electricity we are enjoying today, is a result of a theory which was converted to practical.
Right.
It is the theory you know that you take to the road to drive. How can you say you want to drive on the road? You don't have knowledge of hazard perception. You don't have knowledge of defensive driving techniques. Not to talk of super defensive driving techniques.
Which is very true.
You want to drive safely on the road?
Yeah. So Jide Owatunmise, all you said is very, very real, but putting it in context, do we have enough driving schools around?
We have enough driving schools around. There is no local government in Lagos State, for example, that doesn't have driving schools. By virtue of my job for 7 years as the national president of Driving School Association, there is no state in Nigeria I have not touched.
Right.
And there is no state in Nigeria I don't have good knowledge of when it comes to driving schools. So there is no state that doesn't have enough driving schools in Nigeria as of today. We have enough driving schools in Nigeria.
Right.
We have enough driving schools in Lagos State.
Okay. So the picture that people had of driving schools, maybe, which has really also caused the reduction of people coming, is the old driving schools where you have the old beetle parked under a tree, and then people will have to come there. And people are saying, with this kind of models, we cannot come to such schools. So has it changed? Has that model changed?
Well, you are correct, but the same thing is also applicable even to secondary schools, primary schools. You have standard ones, you have substandard ones. As I'm talking to you, we have been working on making sure that every driving school attains the basic standard. For example, now, just a few months ago, Federal Road Safety Commission had a training program for the driving instructors, that is the operators of driving schools. And by the grace of God also, by next week, the Lagos State Driver Safety Classroom will be having another session of training program for the operators of driving schools in Lagos State. All these efforts are being geared towards the standardization of driving schools in Lagos State and in Nigeria as a whole. So you cannot rule out the fact that some driving schools are still operating at substandard levels, even though many of them are on registered driving schools, they are on approved driving schools. There are some approved driving schools that are also substandard, no doubt about it.
Right.
But we have those who are standard, and we are working towards further standardization of the various driving schools.
All right, so let's look at what,
in terms of knowledge, skills, and facilities.
So let's look at what makes a driving school standard, Mr. Owatunmise. For those who might not know, or those that are still having that picture of what the old driving schools used to look like, what should a standard driving school look like, and what are the things that one will find there?
Yeah, a standard driving school should have roadworthy vehicles. They should have standard classroom facilities. where you have projectors or TVs for projection of lectures. They must have driving simulator, a computerized simulator, and they must have enough qualified instructors that are good, that are qualified and competent in terms of the delivery of theory, the delivery of practical sessions. So these are the basic things that we expect a standard driving school to have. That is, they must have the basic training facilities in terms of vehicles, in terms of classrooms, in terms of the facilities for training. Then they must also have qualified driving instructors who are competent in the delivery of theoretical and practical training sessions.
All right, we'll talk about technology in a short while, but what are some of the most pressing road safety concerns that we have in our country today, and how do you think driving schools can really contribute to addressing those kind of concerns?
Yeah, actually, when you talk about technology, it is very paramount that driving schools have a role to play, just as even the regulators, the administrators, the road safety administrators also have a role to play. On the part of the driving schools, like I mentioned earlier on, that driving schools need to have simulators. Why is it necessary? For example, the drivers we're going to train, they will drive in the night, they will drive in the rain, sometimes they will drive, in unfair situations, unfair weather. But while they are going through the driving schools, no driving school will take them out in the night to train them. So they will not be exposed to the basic skills that they need to employ when they are driving. For example, a driver is driving and there is a glare from another vehicle into his mirror. And how does he handle such a situation that he will not veer into the bush? You cannot train, a driving school cannot handle that training, because no person will come to your driving school in the night that want to know how to drive safely in the night. The same way, when it is raining, nobody will come out and say, "Okay, train me how to drive in the rain, how to drive when there is water puddle."
Right.
But with the use of simulator, that is the driving simulator,
right,
it is possible. You have night session in the computerized system. You have rainy session in the computerized system. You have all these hazards displayed, all these unfair weather. You have them in the simulator, so you'll be able to take your students through how to drive when it is raining, through how to drive when it is dark. So on that part, the driving schools will be able to equip the drivers to drive safely in all situations and road conditions. The same way, the road safety administrators need to, and those other organizations that are involved in the enforcement, they also need to employ technology in carrying out their function to promote safety on Nigeria roads. For example, it is a shameful thing to see either VIO or FRSC pursuing vehicles to arrest them for enforcement.
Okay.
When cameras can do that.
Right.
And when you look at it, where are the addresses? That is one of the challenges that is hindering the use of technology in Nigeria. You look at a house. For example, when you go to Ikorodu, there is a house, 212 Lagos Road. It's around BRT bus stop. When you move again to opposite Lagos State, this technical Lagos State College there,
right.
You also see another 212 Lagos Road. So when you use technology to apprehend a traffic offender, and the traffic offender, you trace the address is 212. Which of the 212 are you going to go to arrest the offender?
All right.
So there is a need for the law enforcement agents to take all the necessary steps to ensure that they also employ the enforcement, because in the process of chasing an offender, accident can also occur.
Very true.
So the use of technology can cover every area, right from the driving school to traffic enforcement and to road safety administration.
Okay.
So it is necessary to employ technology.
All right, then. Jimmy, 1 second. Lagos Traffic Radio, 96.1 FM. We're looking at driving schools, of course, their contribution to road safety, especially looking at the future of road safety in Nigeria and how these driving schools can make a difference. From the control room, we did tell you about a breakdown earlier on at Barracks, inwards Mile 2. But the good news, we have the arrival of a tow truck ready to evacuate that impediment right right now. Within the old Abeokuta and inwards Gengeto on the Agege corridor, we have a corpse on the floor there, a dead body, and we're calling on the attention of SEMO to help out with the evacuation of that dead body. All right, so let's see how that can be taken off. In terms of the traffic movement, Ikorodu Road, those of you coming in from Odogun, connecting Mile 12, still looking good. Linking up with Koshofea K2 down to Yano School is also looking good. The return journey, not bad at all. Those of you on the 3rd Milan Bridge corridor, still looking good, even though we had high influx earlier on, but it's still moving pretty well. Very soon, I'll allow you to join the conversation as well, and that will be on 09153 877127. Okay, that's 09153877127. All right, Jide Owatunmise is our guest, and of course, he has so many titles behind him in terms of the fact that he is the country director of the Driving Schools and Safety Alliance Africa. He is also the director of studies at the Institute of Driving Instructors of Nigeria, and he's been there doing a whole lot of things for driving for the past 2 decades. All right, so you've spoken about the roles that technology can play, but when you look at all these driving schools, Owatunmise, how many of them would you say have the capacity to really give this kind of training? You just mentioned the simulator now. How many of them would you say have simulators?
In Lagos State, we have not less than, out of the approved driving schools, we have, at least I can vouch for about 60% in Lagos State.
Okay.
About 60%, yes.
They have these simulators.
And nationwide, I can vouch for about 50%.
As well.
About 50% in nationwide, then 50% in Lagos State.
Right.
Have the yeah.
Okay, so that's taken. But when you look at the process, you know, because like you said earlier on, a lot of people now, all they want to do is to go to FRSC, they want to get driver's license, and the only way they have any kind of connection, even with the driving schools, is that driver's license. Some others, they even use proxy. They do not come around, but they're able to get. So, is there not something wrong with the driving system? Is there not something wrong in processing driver's license where, you know, we have people that all they want to come and do is to get the certificate and not the driving school experience?
Yeah, I want to tell you sincerely that the driver license process has been corrupted beyond imagination. There is high level of corruption in the system, in the driver license process. For example, somebody will wake up one day, says that he wants to collect driver license. He will take a passport photograph to the driving school. They will capture another person. They will use computer now to manipulate the face of the person. Because in the driving school, you are expected to do computer-based tests. Okay. But because they want to avoid all this, because they did not go to driving school, they know that they cannot pass the computer-based test. So what they will now do is to now manipulate, you know, through the connivance of the driving schools. You know, some of the driving school operators are also corrupt. They are also accomplice in the corruption in the system. They will now go and use passports to process the certificate from driving schools. Instead of them to appear physically, they will not appear physically. So by the time they now manipulate, somebody will stand in for them, do the CBT test for them. They will now use their own passport photograph to manipulate it on the computer so that their picture can come up in the certificate. Then by the time they get to the driver license center, the system will detect it.
Okay.
That's not the face of the person. But because of the manipulation, because of the corruption in the system,
right?
The officers at the driver license center will also collaborate in the crime. They will also collaborate in the crime and pass it through as if it's genuine, whereas it's not genuine. They will now go and capture. The moment they do the biometric capturing, it will now authenticate the illegality that has originated from the driving school and that has passed through the driver license center. So this is a serious issue which is really affecting the driver. Some people come to driving school now, they come with their certificate. They want to learn how to drive, but they will come with their license. They will come with the driving school certificate, they will come with the license.
Wow.
They said they just want to know how to drive. They already have their driver license through the back door.
So that's a flaw.
This is a serious issue in Nigeria today. And I want to tell you that it's very high. The rate is very high. The rate at which this corruption is happening at the driver license center is very, very high.
So let me bring that
very
to you,
high.
Mr. Owatunmise. As your group, talking about the drivers' associations and the alliances, have you been able to bring this to the attention of the FRAC, for instance, the attention of the government?
Definitely, we have been shouting about it. We have been crying about it. I've even gone ahead to write memo and to write articles on it. I was at the National Council for National Council on Transportation in Nigeria, the highest advisory body on transportation and road safety. At the meeting, I submitted a memorandum still pointing out this same problem. The association has already reached out to the various stakeholders, to the regulators, to FRSC, to LASTRI, and to others, mentioning this crisis. Are you getting my point now? So it's a thing that we have been mentioning over and over and over and over. And there are solutions to this. If it can work in Ghana, if it can work in Ivory Coast, if it can work in UK, if it can work in America, why can't it work in Nigeria? Even if it can work in Ghana here, why can't it work in Nigeria?
All right. Let's see if we can take
system we need to adopt to prevent these loopholes. People are just thinking about what they make, the money they make, without thinking of the lives that have been lost on the road.
Which is quite unfortunate. Let's take this to the let's take it to another level now and hear from the listening public as well. 091-5387-7127. You have any questions for Jide Owatunmise, who's the country director of the Drivers Safety Alliance Africa? Please feel free to bring that in. I have some questions that are coming in for you. This one says, good morning, SARS. Do you think our driving tests in Nigeria are too easy compared to other countries? Tajuddin is sending that one in. So is that the case, Jide Owatunmise?
That's what, sir.
He said, do you think our driving tests in Nigeria are too easy compared to other countries?
The driving sense.
The tests that we do for driving. Tests. The tests.
Sorry.
Tests.
The sense.
No, not sense. When people go for driving, you give them some tests, at
okay,
FRS.
the test.
Yes.
The test.
Yes.
Whether it's so easy.
Yes. Compared to other countries?
It's easier than other countries. Because the test we have in Nigeria is too simple. It's too simple. For example, when you are talking about the theory test, the computer-based test that we have here, it's so simple. The way it is now, even though we have been shouting that it should be updated, it's so simple that even if you did not go to driving school, you can pass it. It's too simple. Then when you talk about the VIOs who are to administer the practical test, the way they administer it, even if they administer, because there is a compromise on their own side also, many people don't even go through the test. Once you can grease the palm of some people, you can get the certificate of VIOs without even doing any test.
You mean
it's another story for another day.
That's a wild allegation.
Even if you go to any VIO office now, has the government provided vehicles for them to be doing practical training? No. The practical test. The government did not provide them with facilities. In the whole of Lagos State, there is no single driving range for VIOs to use to test people. No single driving range.
How do you ascertain that?
In the whole of Lagos State.
How do you ascertain that?
In the whole of Lagos State. Sir?
How can you ascertain that from what you said?
As I told you earlier on, I was the national president of the Driving Association of Nigeria. There's no state I have not touched. I can tell you sincerely, there is no single state in Nigeria that has a standard driving range. In the whole country, no single state has a standard driving range. How will the VIO? And there's no single state that has provided vehicles dedicated for the testing of learners in the whole of the country. Then how will they be able to operate? So that at the same time, the VIOs have opportunities to also administer the test. Even without the government, they can do the test on the road. That's one. Two, they can use some driving school vehicles to do the practical test. But they don't want to go through this stress.
Right.
And
Okay.
so they decided to, some of them bypass it. So the test here in Nigeria is very easy.
All right.
Very simple.
I'm having more questions.
Simple.
More questions for you. This one says, good morning. I think commercial drivers need a completely different kind of driving schools apart from the private car owners. This is coming in from architect Ladipo. All right. Thank you so much. So do you think they need a different driving school?
They don't, the drivers of commercial vehicles, they don't need a different driving school. Let me just clarify one thing. When you are talking of commercial vehicles, it's not only the Danfo drivers. It's not only the Danfo vehicles, and the vehicles that are being used for business by banks, by insurance companies are also part of the commercial vehicles.
Okay.
So we don't need a different driving school, but we have different training modules for them. Once they are commercial drivers of commercial vehicles, they have a different module of training by the same set of driving schools. So they don't need different driving schools. They need different curriculum, which we already have for them.
Okay.
And the National Road Traffic Regulation 2012 specifically mentioned it, that every driver of commercial vehicle must undergo mandatory refresher training in driving schools and driving institutes at least for a minimum of 9 hours before their license can be renewed. Meaning that, and it's also written in the same National Road Traffic Regulation 2012, that the transport unions, the transport organizations, the transport companies must organize seminars and training programs for the drivers of commercial vehicles every year.
Okay.
And the driving schools, the driving school instructors are to administer the training.
Okay, all right.
To run the training for the commercial drivers.
All right, quickly, let's run through some other questions here. I'm sure we might not be able to take all of them. I have about 3 or 4 of them. This one says, it says, sir, why don't we have refresher driving courses for older drivers the way pilots retrain regularly? Ngozi send that one in from Costain. Thank you so much, Ngozi, for your contribution. Another one here says, good morning, Victor. Can driving schools help change the rush-on-rush mentality of Nigerian drivers? Sheon Ibrahim is sending that one in. Thank you so much, Sheon. This one says, good morning, Mr. Badmos here. So currently, I am on 3rd Milan Bridge in a downfall, and as I'm listening to you on the radio, the driver just tore open a sachet of gin and drank it while in motion. So how do we really tackle the issue of people driving under the influence in Lagos? Okay, that's a very, very pertinent one. This one says, Mr. Victor, I'm trying to call, but the network is bad. My suggestion is that they should make it a routine for police or FRSC officers to occasionally check driving school certificates so more people can take proper driver's training seriously. Thanks. B from Ogbad. B, thank you so much. So a lot to really chew, but we do not have the time. But what would you say to those that are driving under the influence of alcohol? Is there anything that we can do to reduce that?
Those driving under the influence of alcohol, I believe that is because they don't know the effect on them. So we have to continue to educate them. And the enforcement also should be more stringent. For example, let me just give you an example now. Most drivers now, let me not say most, a lot of drivers in Nigeria, particularly Lagos State today, they have taken it in their hand to be a pastime. They have taken it to be a regular thing. Before they handle the steering, they will go and take. They even call it a name in Lagos State. They call it fresh fish in Lagos State,
which is quite unfortunate.
So it's unfortunate, but Indian hemp has a very strong chemical. It has many dangerous chemicals, but there is one that is more potent. And the most potent chemical inside Indian hemp is called tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. Tetrahydrocannabinol is a strong psychoactive chemical inside Indian hemp, and it settles in the fatty parts of the human body. So, and we all know that the brain is the most fatty part of the human body.
Right.
And so that is why anytime a driver takes Indian hemp, a lot of the tetrahydrocannabinol inside that in their hands settles in the brain.
Right.
And over time, the brain will be impaired.
Right.
And like I told you before, the eyes move around to gather information. The ears gather information. The nose gathers information when you are driving.
So there's a lot.
It is the brain that will process them.
That's very true.
And it's the brain that will process the information. When the brain is already impaired by drugs or alcohol, how will the person be able to interpret what is seen around and take a safety measure?
We have to go. We have to go now, Mr. Owatunmise. But quickly, in 30 seconds, what's your message, especially as it relates to driving schools in Nigeria? What's your message to our listeners this morning? Quickly.
My advice to driving schools is that they must consider the safety of human lives above money.
Okay. All right.
All the officers at the driver license centers also, the stakeholders, they must prioritize the safety of human lives above money.
All right. We'll leave it at that for now.
To the listeners, I want them also to be safety conscious on the road.
Okay.
Because life has no duplicate.
All right, then we'll leave it at that for now. It's nice having you join us on the program. Thank you so much for linking up with us. All right.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay,
Thanks
so we reflected on the future of road safety and how driving schools can make a difference. And taking us to the classroom this morning is Jide Owatunmise, who is the country director, driving schools and safety alliance Africa. He has so many other titles as well. We have to go. Mike James has produced the program this morning, and in the studios we have Overcomer, Aweye, Appraise, Ajude, Mary Olufolahon, as well as Akinsonya Oluwagbenga. Maximum shout out going out to Kwemi Shodunke and to our social media team. Our executive producer is Tayo Akonli. My name is Victor Oteri. I'll be back by 10:15 for the benchmark.